Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. I am so excited for today. I'm going to give it a couple moments while we let people join just to make sure everyone is here. I have made sure that everyone can chat with everyone. So if you could let me know that you can see the chat and that you can hear us, give me a thumbs up, say hello in the chat. Let us know that you're here. Let me know where you're calling in from. We'd love to see you, to hear you. And then I'm going to jump right in here in just a moment. Awesome. Hi, Susan. Glad you're here. All right. Aloha, Greg. Welcome. Fantastic. Well, Anne, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing well, thank you. Super excited to chat with you. So I am going to do a little introduction. I am so excited to talk to you and pick your brain today, Anne. Today, we are going to talk through kind of the lifestyle shifts that supported Anne's healing journey. And we're going to talk about how to apply those. We're going to talk about why health coaches are the missing link in modern healthcare. I love that question. I love talking about that. We're going to talk about how you use your own struggles as a catalyst for transformation, and then all those advanced coaching tools like the advanced coaching courses that you took, and how that has helped kind of propel your journey and made you the coach that you are today. And then, of course, we want to talk about how to turn your passion into a career that changes lives. So super excited. We've got plenty of people here. We got Susan from Texas. Hi, I'm in Texas too. Hi from Louisiana. Hello from Rhode Island. Here from Tennessee. Fantastic. So as we are chatting with Anne, this is all for you guys, right? So we're here to answer your questions. We're here to make sure that you have clarity on what you want to do next steps as a health coach. And so if you have any questions for Anne as we're chatting, please drop them in the chat, because what I like to do is kind of push pause every once in a while, double check the chat, and see if we can answer any questions for anybody. Hope you don't mind. Is that okay with you, Anne?
That is perfect. Yes.
Awesome. So yeah, please do drop your questions in the chat as Anne is talking. So I want to hear a little bit about Anne's story. And then we have a really fun request for you. So I am going to pull up real quick. And I really love, Anne asked if we could do this, and so I'm going to let her introduce it. But before we do that, I want to start with your story. So can you share your health journey with us and how it led you to discover Primal?
Okay, you bet. So first of all, thanks for having me here and asking me to tell my story. It's kind of a privileged thing to be able to do. Um, I think the most significant thing in my health journey started back in 1997 when, kind of out of the blue, I was diagnosed with late stage hepatocellular carcinoma, liver cancer. I was 42 at the time, thought I was healthy, didn't really have any symptoms. But nonetheless, when they told me, I thought, are you talking to me? Really? Are you sure? Are you sure it's me? Right. So did some searches to find some doctors and had several tell me they couldn't help me. Finally did find some really super great doctors at Baylor Medical Center downtown Dallas. Scheduled a big surgery that would take out a 9-pound tumor from my liver and removed 3 of 4 lobes by a really very much of a genius liver transplant surgeon named Robert Goldstein, and agreed to do 5 months of chemotherapy. And my oncologist was Dr. Claude Denham out of Dallas as well. So my prognosis was kind of like zip. I call it my expiration date was supposed to be somewhere in the spring of 1998. That's pretty much what they believed would happen. Their efforts were really to buy me some time. So I remember sitting down with Dr. Goldstein, and he explained the whole procedure to me, and he told me that it was a new procedure. He hadn't done it very much, maybe once a year, but he was getting better at it. So I thought, well, that's encouraging. Great. I'm so glad. So I just said to him, you know what? You do your part and I'll do my part. So went in for the surgery. And as soon as I could get out and back home, it took a while to get back home. Um, that's a pretty hard procedure to recover from because your liver is like your energy source, and I didn't have a liver, so I didn't have any energy. So when I started reading, I decided that that prognosis just didn't sit well with me. So I was going to figure out what I had to do to get my body to heal. So I started reading books. We didn't have, excuse me, we didn't have internet back then, that long ago. It'll be 28 years this September. So I just read and read and read and read and tried to produce a protocol that seemed sound to me, right? Because there was some kind of stuff that seemed a little crazy, so I didn't go with those too much. But my objective was to make my body become cancer's worst nightmare. That's what I wanted. That's what I wanted to accomplish. So I knew I needed to be smarter than cancer. I needed to be more determined than cancer. I needed to move faster than cancer, and mine was moving fast. They told me after surgery that there was a massive blood supply circulating through my body, and so they fully expected it to return. So I was really under a timeline, and I just wasn't willing to just buy into they were trying to be helpful. They were great docs, and we were a great team. And I told them I needed for them to be very, very straight with me. I didn't want them to sugarcoat anything for me. I wanted to hold facts because it's my body and I needed to handle that. So I wanted to be more persistent than cancer. And I wanted to be meaner than cancer, right? Because cancer is pretty darn mean. So I put all this into action. And we'll talk about that more a little bit later, but 1 year later, cancer did return, just as expected. So it was in my lung. It took about 3 months to find it. We knew it was coming in because of my tumor marker, and kept rising and rising and rising. And we kept x-raying and scanning and all the blood work and all the things that you do. And finally found it in my lung. So we scheduled another surgery by a lung guy named Robert Hebler. And they expected to see shotgun tumors more aggressive than the original tumor. Well, I had told my docs what I was up to. I would say, look, I've got a whole binder. I've got all the information here if you'd like to see it. They were great. They would just say, keep doing what you're doing. Your blood works better than mine. That's what my oncologist would tell me sometimes. So I appreciated their attitude, that they believed in what I was doing, that was helpful. And so they could see the results in my blood work, which we did every single month for years, right? But when we did the surgery, Dr. Denham, my oncologist, pretty much warned me that there's nothing left. There's nothing left we can do for you except experimental. And so he said, I can set you up for that if you'd like to go there. And I asked him this question. I said, this may not be a fair question, but if it were your wife this was happening to, would you want her to go through it? And he said, it's a fair question, and no, I wouldn't. So we did the surgery, and I'd been doing all the work for a solid year, very, very, very fanatically, you could say. I didn't break any of the rules, and I did exactly what I knew to do. It was a lot of things, but it wasn't just one thing, it was a lot of things. And so they found one tiny tumor and no friends, in their words, no friends. So I actually had visits from the pathologist who did my original tumor and my second tumor. He came to see me and he said, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. My oncologist said the same thing. Dr. Goldstein, the liver transplant surgeon, came to see me in the hospital after my lung surgery and said the same thing to me. And then I had a liver specialist as well who told me the same thing, keep doing what you're doing. I think they were very, very surprised. They didn't expect it. They said, we don't ever see this happen. So the tumor was less aggressive than the original tumor, and they expected it to be more aggressive, okay? So that was 28 years ago, okay? Yeah, and I'm still here. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Okay, so and forgive me, I don't want to interrupt you if you have more to talk about.
No, keep going. Keep
Okay,
going.
I would love to pause real quick because I definitely want to dig into quite a bit there. But I would love at this moment, since we talked a little bit in advance of this webinar about this fun request that you have of our audience today. And now's a good time to request, because I think it would be a perfect time for them to kind of start ruminating on this request that we have for them.
Sure. So I am in the process of building my Primal Health website. And my specialty, in case you didn't guess that yet, will be cancer, as well as metabolic problems relating to insulin resistance, like diabetes, like obesity, fatty liver, dementia, even. Lots of issues stem from insulin resistance. So I was wondering if, as you hear me talk, maybe you can help me name my website, and I'll see if I can, grab that domain. I'm really not sure what to call myself. I mean, cancer is really what I want to reach out to people about, but I think others will happen along the way as well. So, okay, there's my request. Y'all
That's
see what you think.
amazing. And yes, and I would love that if, like, as you're listening to her talk, just ruminate about things that like stand out to you, and points that feel like they would hit home and resonate with her story. I love that. And Stephen, who is right off the bat says metabolic miracles. I think that's so fun. I really like that.
Nice. Thank you. I'm going to write that down. Well, maybe
Creative
I can.
juices are already flowing.
Yeah, great. Okay, I love that. I love that.
Awesome.
Okay.
So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, everything that I did, basically, as I looked at it, is a primal health
Mm.
blueprint.
Let's dig into that. That was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
Let's talk about more detail on that.
Well, Mark Sisson's book really wasn't published until 2009. And his book is called the Primal Blueprint, right? So he covers all the same information, and maybe there are a few differences, but basically the core is the same as what primal health is all about, right? So the number one thing for me was nutrition, and I won't go into all the details, but the number one rule is absolutely no sugar. No sugar in fruit, no sugar in ketchup or crackers or salad dressing. And in that time, 1997, people didn't realize how much sugar was in products, right? It just wasn't a thing yet. So I did my homework and realized, wow. So the only foods that I ate, I juiced every day. I juiced every leafy green, every vegetable that was non-starchy. And I drank it no matter what it tasted like. I didn't care, because food really was my medicine, right? It really was my medicine. So I drank my juice every single day, sometimes twice a day, even. I carried around a big bag of raw veggies, and I ate them all day long. I just ate vegetables all day long. And I also ate salmon every single day. Back in that day, I wasn't eating beef. I do now, but I didn't then. But I did eat salmon every single day, and that was like for the omega-3s and of course the protein. And I had a big salad with my meal. I ate eggs. I forget what I had for breakfast, but it was mostly just whole foods. That's all I ate. And I drank a lot of water, and that's the only drink that I had, right? Just water. I didn't drink any, but a lot of water. I drank a lot of water. So that was kind of the core. That was critical. I also made sure I got good sleep. I had to have plenty of sleep. Your immune system functions when you're sleeping. And so sleep deprivation is really, really harmful, more so than a lot of us know. Or I didn't know it at the time either. So I made a point of making sure I was sleeping. As soon as I could get up and start moving, which took a while, I started walking. I hired a fitness trainer to help me start building muscle, because I had lost a lot of weight. I was just skin and bones back then, but I wanted to make sure that I was physically fit. So I worked at that. Some days I'd have chemo and I'd come back and I couldn't really do anything but maybe lie down on the bench in the gym. And so I consider that my fitness training. But so that was important to me. And that was as soon as I could get up and move. I mean, it took a while before I could move across the room, literally, just because you don't have any energy. I did a lot of detoxing as well. So I sat in the sauna, either dry sauna or steam sauna. And I also did some colon cleanses. Now get this, there was a lady in town who had owned the health food store there for a very, very, very long time. She was old and she knew a lot of stuff. And so I used her recipe for a colon cleanse I'm kind of embarrassed to tell you what it was called, but it was it was called the Royal Flush. I'll just leave it at that. So I also, in my hydration, I would drink up to a gallon of water a day, especially if I was sitting in the sauna, right? Because I'd sweat it. I wanted to sweat out the toxins. I wanted to sweat out the cancer. I just wanted to sweat, right? I wanted to clean out my body. So I knew I needed to reduce all stressors, as many as I could in my life. So I did that. I just decided, hey, it's not a big deal. No stressing. I made the decision that I'm not going to stress because it was harmful and I knew it. I took a lot of supplements, probably more than anybody would normally, I mean, even consider taking. I want to say that there was like 90 a day that I took. But I studied each and every one of them, and I knew that the industry was not regulated, so I had to be careful who I bought supplements from. Sometimes I'd call the reps and talk to them about them. But each supplement had a job to do in my body, and so I was counting on that, right? I learned this thing called chi. It's like an energy. It's a way to use the energy around you. So I got pretty good at mastering chi, and I would bring in the energy from the universe, the sun, the clouds, the water, the forest, wherever I was, and ask it to go through my body and take out all the harmful things that were there. And I learned about visualization because I would sometimes see myself in a casket because, you know, they kind of told me that was going to happen. And I didn't want to see myself in a casket. So I read this book called Mind Power. Here it is right here. And it's by a guy named John Kehoe. And he will teach you to see you where you want to be. So I refused to see myself in the casket. I refused to see myself really sick and all that. So I saw myself doing what I wanted to do, being healthy, riding my bike, being out there with my kids. Whatever it was I wanted was all about health and living life fully. So those are the only things that I would allow to come into my mind. If something else would just sneak in, I would just make it, I would banish it instantly, get out of my head, right? And I focused on really just doing some happy things, just doing happy things. And I ignored the critics because there were people who thought that what I was doing was ridiculous and they didn't mind telling me so. So it didn't take long for me to just kind of shove them aside, like, I don't need this feedback from you, and went about my business. And I do want to say that I'm not a hero and I'm not anything special. And I mean that. I think that the work that I did is just something I learned to do. And anybody who decides to do it can do it. It's not about being a hero because I survived a very serious illness. But I think so many other people can heal if they know what to do and they have the support they need to do it. So that's one of the things that led me into health coaching. Over the years, I've talked to lots and lots of people, right, who have cancer because I was asked to. And that's another thing that's inspired me. It's like finally, I decided that I would legitimize it. I would get the credentials that would allow me to reach out to people worldwide. I want to do this globally. Another thing that was really important during that time was just my mindset. I did not have a luxury of falling apart emotionally. I didn't have that. I knew I had a problem and I needed to think my way through it. So I didn't spend much time worrying. I didn't spend much time, obsessing over the fact that I was supposed to die. I just wanted to get with the program and figure out what to do. And the other reason, the main reason, was that I had a 15-year-old daughter at home, and I was not going to leave her behind. Right. So
say that last part again. I'm sorry, I missed that.
I was not going to leave my daughter behind. I just wasn't. That was my reason to stay. So yeah.
It's so inspirational. There's so much that I'm hearing there, and I've made some notes about what things I want to touch on, but I would love to kind of hone in on what you just said, which was, my question was, so many people feel very powerless after a diagnosis like that, and the doctor's telling them, what the doctors told you, and you just said you didn't have you didn't have a choice. You didn't give yourself a choice, right? You took that and you said, okay, I'm going to become a self-advocate. I'm going to do this. I'm going to take this into my own hands. And so my question for you was, what mindset shifts, what do you think it was that triggered that determination, that self-advocacy? But then you answered it, which I think is beautiful, because you just said your daughter, you didn't want to leave your daughter behind. But do you have any thoughts, any advice for anyone who finds themselves in a similar situation, where after a really strong diagnosis like this, it can feel very powerless, and it can feel like, what is it going to take to get me to the point where you got, where you're like, this is not a choice for me, this is what I'm doing?
Right. I think I do. I think I have some things to say about that to people who are facing the same. I mean, cancer is scary. It's a scary word, right? I don't know that we have to be as afraid of it as we are, but I do think we need to be very aware of the potential for it to. I always say it kind of eats us from the inside out, right? It's a nasty, nasty disease to have. So I'm not trying to minimize that. I just think that we have more power than most of us realize. And I loved my doctors because they were respectful of my efforts. And not and I've heard many people over the years say that their doctors would say things like, "Oh, none of that matters." Right? So there are some people out there who some doctors out there who don't value the work that we can do on our own to do our part. And so I would say to anybody, to do your part. You have to do your part. And that is, if you don't know how to take care of yourself in every single way a person must, then it's a good opportunity to learn, right? And if you don't know how to do that on your own, find yourself a good health coach. Find yourself those people who know. There are many doctors that I really admire out there who are doing everything they can to teach people how to help themselves. I mean, I've made a list. Where did I put it? Sean Baker, Ken Berry, Anthony Chafee, Sten Ekberg, Eric Berg. There's a bunch of people out there. Mark Sisson, of course, is one who spent his life trying to help others help themselves. And so thankfully that information is available to everybody these days. Mm-hmm. It wasn't in my day, although we did have people who wrote books. Cancer survivors wrote books, and nutritionists wrote books, and biologists even wrote books. I read a bunch of books, 20, maybe 30 books I read. And I think that's kind of the number one attitude you have to have is, you might think you know how to take good care of yourself, but there's more to it than what we know. Many times there's more to it, right? So I say to anybody who's struggling with a cancer diagnosis or any other diagnosis, there are lots of diagnoses out there. It's not just about cancer. To think through your problem. Don't be afraid of the hard stuff. Turn around and face it. It's ugly, but face it anyway, right? And become that disease's worst enemy. They don't want to be in your body anymore, because your body's going to smack it around and get rid of it, right? So that was my goal. And I think, I don't mean to imply that people who don't survive cancer didn't fight it hard enough. I don't mean that. I don't want anybody to take away that I have that kind of attitude. I don't, because sometimes there's just nothing that can be done, right? In spite of our best efforts, right? So, so I want to be clear about that. But yeah, it's a scary thing, and I think that fear. I remember one morning I woke up. It was pretty early on after I was in my still recovering from the first surgery I had. I remember thinking when I woke up, it hit me. Oh yeah, I'm a cancer patient now, and I'm supposed to die soon. And then the fear would just wash over me, and I really didn't like that. So I remember saying to myself, I'm not living this way. I'm not going to live in fear. And so I was thinking, well, what can I do about it, right? But here's what I did. So I said to myself, okay, for the next 3 hours, I'm fine. I'm not going to die. I can choose to just be happy, relaxed, calm, enjoy my morning for 3 hours. I got 3 hours. And that's what I'm going to do with those 3 hours. So I did. When I mastered the 3 hours, I added 3 more hours. When I mastered the 6, I added 3 more until I got to the full day
Mm.
of living in the moment. I'm not going to worry about tomorrow. I'm just going to take the day and make it a good day. And that was like one of the best blessings of having cancer, right? Because because nobody knows. We don't know when our last day is. Nobody knows that, right?
Mhm.
So it's just a nice realization that we have this moment. Let's just take it and make it great.
Mm.
So that's how I dealt with fear, and it really did go away. It just went away.
That's
Yeah,
that's very cool. Thank you for sharing that because that's so actionable, that's so precise and really, really powerful.
it did work. It worked.
Yeah, obviously. That's amazing. That's amazing. So, real quick before we shift gears, well, I want to shift a little bit to um you mentioned a minute ago doing all the things to make sure that you are your body is not inhabitable to to cancer, that you're the cancer's worst enemy. um and then you mentioned, and I'm going to list the things that you mentioned, which are all the things, all of these pieces of the puzzle that you're putting together: food, sleep, hiring a trainer for the right amount of movement for your body at the moment, detoxes like sauna and colon cleanses, stress management, obviously big one, all the supplements, all the research that you did on 90 supplements a day, mastering chi, visualization, and then obviously you had an incredible amount of support. It sounds like you had a great team of doctors, luckily, and then you brought support around you. So that, thinking from not only a patient perspective, but thinking also from as a health coach who might potentially be helping people through something like this, what would you say? How do you prioritize? Because I know sometimes we can coach people, our health coaching clients. I experience a lot of overwhelm, a lot of the, like, not only did I now get this diagnosis, yes, I want to do something about it, or even if it's not as serious of a diagnosis, but yes, I am motivated to do something about my health. Where do I start? Do I have to do all of those things at the same time in order for this to work? Or how do I prioritize where to begin? Or where, as a health coach, where to help your client begin?
Well, for me, my I had such limited time, right? I mean, I couldn't mess around with it. And I don't encourage anybody to mess around with it because cancer's sneaky. You can feel fine. I mean, I was late stage liver cancer and I didn't have any symptoms. Except I had gained 10 pounds. I was kind of a scrawny little thing back then, but I gained 10 pounds. I couldn't figure out why. I mean, I was riding my bike about 100 miles a week and I was very active physically and I was eating kind of vegetarian back in that day, but
Liver cancer
uh,
would not be at the top of my list to think of why you gained 10 pounds, right? My goodness.
wasn't yeah, I wasn't much of a drinker. I drank maybe a half a glass of wine every now and then. I didn't even finish it. But the tumor was a 9-pound tumor, so there was my 10 pounds, right? But I never guessed it either, right? I didn't know. So it's a sneaky disease, and you don't. I mean, I needed my doctors to keep track of the cancer in my body, so I knew where it was. So I did a lot of scans. I did bone scans and CT scans and X-rays and blood work, and I was there every month for years. Um, and that was helpful. I needed what they knew, right? But some people, and whether you like it or not, are only going to do one thing at a time, and that's okay as long as they're going in that direction. My preference would be that they jump in, but you can't force somebody to do that if they're not ready, right? And they have to believe in it. They have to believe that taking care of themselves in every single way that they must is part of their or is, let me just say, it's a significant way to help themselves, right? So mostly I want them to believe that it's real, that they have the power, that they have it, and that your body is a healing machine. It wants to heal. You know, you think about, I remember this visual on one of the books I was reading, like life wants to go on. So you think about a crack in a driveway, maybe somewhere, and there's a weed that's growing up in that crack, right? Like the environment is hostile, but it still comes up anyway. So I think your body is, if you give it what it needs, it will perform miracles for you, right?
Amazing. Yes, I think of my favorite movie, Jurassic Park, and he says, life will find a way. So Ricky has a great question. I have a few questions in the chat, if you don't mind pausing, and we will answer those. Ricky asks, how did you come across the Primal program?
Oh, well, let's see. I started, my first certification was with a great bunch of people. Ben Bickman is the founder of Insulin IQ. So I was trained in insulin resistance, got some great information there, but I really wanted to become nationally certified. And I knew that my insulin gave me great information, but it really wasn't set up or approved by the national board to prepare us for that. So as I looked around, and I knew some other people who worked for Ken Berry actually, and I asked them, where did you guys get your certification? And they told me. So that's how I found Primal, right? So when I looked into Primal, wow, I was so impressed. I was so impressed because I got to see the curriculum. And I'm an old educator. My career was in special education. So I think like an educator, and I looked at the curriculum like an educator would. And my thoughts were, this is very thorough, and it covers, gosh, what does it not cover, right? And the coaching aspects that you would learn were really something that I felt like I needed. I really wanted to be better at being a coach. And so that's why it drew me in, because it's just so well done. So well done. Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. Tim, I love this. Metabolic miracles, the antidote for cancer and chronic disease. That's really good.
Good. Love
Love it. Stephen makes a good point, and I would love for you to talk into this. Is it tricky working as a coach with these sort of issues as far as not going into diagnosing or prescribing?
Well, you just really do need to stay in your lane as a coach. You need to do that. And I always tell people, I'm not a medical person. None of that is my business. You know, that's between you and your medical people. And so I don't. I try to focus on how we can help our body, you know, get what it needs. And sometimes for some people, reducing the stress load that they're carrying is where you start, because it's so damaging. I think we don't even recognize stress in our body because it's pretty normalized for so many of us. You know, life is hectic for lots and lots of folks. And so that may be the place to start, but I just stay in those parameters. I know where I belong, and I don't give opinions about medical stuff. I might ask questions, but you know, to make it
See,
really
you
clear.
don't find there's like it's difficult to avoid that crossover between that, you know, like almost prescribing and coaching. So let's talk a little bit about your coaching and about what got you into the coaching, and then we can dig into the details. But let's switch gears and talk about when you started coaching.
Say I started coaching about a year ago, really a little bit longer than a year ago, but it's just been about a year.
And how does your experience, obviously, your background, your experience, and your background, and you said special education, right?
Right.
How does that shape your coaching path, or I'm sorry, your coaching approach?
Um, in special education, my main work there was as a diagnostician. So I would bring the teams of specialists together when we evaluated a child. Some kids would have disabilities that were invisible. You couldn't see them. And others were very quite obvious. And they really, really had multiple problems. And so you're working with, it's like a privileged position to be in. You're working with very sensitive things that people experience, and the parents are oftentimes grieving. Sometimes they're sad. Sometimes they're angry. Sometimes they are in acceptance, and sometimes they're in denial. So, you just have to be not afraid of the hard stuff. You face it head on as kindly and gently, and you work with that person, and you make it clear that your objective is to help that child's life be better, right? So you're digging for information as you evaluate kids. You use all the resources that you need, and then you try to find solutions. You try to find solutions for that child at home, in school, in the community. It's like that as a health coach, because you're in a privileged position. You are working with very sensitive topics for people. Say, somebody who struggled with obesity for the last 30 years. That's a tough thing for them to talk about, right? So if you come across as that non-judgmental person who cares about them as the person, then I think you can make headway with them. So I think that's the connection for me. It's still a helping kind of role, and being respectful of that person and their struggles, and taking them forward in a real positive way, and reminding them of their strengths, not going where the weaknesses are, because Lord knows we all have those, right? So yeah, I think it is connected. I think it's all about not being afraid of the hard stuff. It's about truly caring about other people and wanting to see great things happen for them, but knowing that the work is theirs to do, right?
Mm.
It's not ours to do, it's theirs to do.
So you've said that 3 times now, which is one of my favorite things. Don't be afraid of the hard stuff. Face the hard things. I love that. And then you finished with the work is theirs to do, not yours to do for them. That's something that's really powerful as a health coach that can be very challenging to let go of when you're a new health coach wanting it more than they want it for themselves. So talking to that, do you have experience with coaching people who may be hesitant to face the hard things, to do the hard work, to accept that the responsibility is on them to do the work versus I know that would probably most of us have a fair share of experience with people who want that easy button, right?
Well, we kind of grew up that way, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we were taught you go to the doctor and they fix you, right? And so I say you go to the doctor and let them do their part, and you do your part, right? But yeah, there's a client I can think of, and when we first started, which was about a year ago, I believe that this person didn't really understand the power they had to take charge of what had happened to them. They'd been diabetic 30 years on insulin, had a lot of weight that they were carrying around that they really, really did not like. And it took just a few sessions actually. And I think finally this person decided, yeah, I think it's worth working for. So you should see this person today. Very, very different. Energetic. They feel much better. They've lost 50 pounds. They're not using insulin anymore. They've reversed their condition. I think their numbers might still be a little high, but so much better than they were on insulin, right? But yeah, that was a person I think was a little reluctant. Maybe I can't really speak for that person, but maybe because they didn't believe it could happen to them for them, right? Yeah, yeah. And so this is also a person who had been pretty sedentary, had not walked in a long time.
Hmm.
Now they're out there walking 7 days a week. Yeah,
Amazing.
it's a beautiful thing.
It is.
It just makes you feel great because they did the work. And I was just, like they're the captain of the ship. I was just helping them steer. That's it.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. I like to say that they're in the driver's seat and I'm in the passenger seat with the map, but they're the ones
Yes,
who's driving the car. Yeah.
that's right.
Awesome. Well, Anne, tell us a little bit more about your certifications. So, you started with Primal. Do you have what all certifications did you pursue with Primal?
So I just finished my master coach certification, which is, gosh, that was such an incredible opportunity to learn. It's like a notch up from
Mhm.
the basic classes are awesome. I mean, you learn so much, and you do learn a lot about coaching. But if you step into the master coach classroom, which is like 12 weeks, live online training twice a week,
Mhm.
I think it's 90 minutes. Is that how long it was? Um, we got to do a lot of interaction with actions with other coaches who were learning. Um, so it really focuses on two things. One is teaching you the motivational interviewing techniques, which is standard for psychiatrists and psychologists and counselors, people who do the interviewing. Even occupational therapists use motivational interviewing, and it's really based on helping people see their strengths, get clarity on what's important to them. You ask a lot of questions to help them tweak their thinking a little bit, get them think, oh, I didn't think about that, right? And you're a good listener. You really listen to what they have to say. And I think that's real empowering for people. Oh my gosh, somebody really listened to me. And the other thing that it does is it prepares you to take the national board certification exam. So I'm really excited about that, which will be in November for me. Yeah. And so the other certifications that I studied along the way while I was taking my basic course to become um, the Primal Health Coach certification, I did one that's called, let's see, the ketogenic diet specialist. And then
Mhm.
there's a functional nutritionist specialist. And then there's also another one for microbiome in health and disease specialist. I've done that one. One more. What was it? I guess that's it for now. There's three. And then the master coach. And so I'm going after the fitness certification next, but after I finish my exam, after I finish that, I'm not going to
Perfect.
start that. Yeah,
One
one
big
thing
goal
at
at
a
a
time.
time.
Yeah, and then there's another one at school that Dr. Ken Berry wrote. Sorry, for the blood, like understanding lab work, right?
Yep. Yep.
Just so we'll be better when we look at it. And then there's a fitness for women. There are so many nice specializations
Yeah.
that you can. And I just think that, I mean, one of the primal laws is to use your brain, right? So
Mhm.
so I'm 70 and I'm still doing all of this work, and I love it because I do think that many of us are lifelong learners, and primal will offer you the opportunities to keep doing that. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And how would you say those advanced courses have shaped your coaching or changed
Well,
your coaching?
it certainly does. A lot of people do ketogenic diets, and in fact, the ketogenic diet is highly recommended for people who have cancer. Right?
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
want the ketones because you don't want high blood glucose, and you definitely don't want high insulin in your blood. Um, Cancer cells thrive on glucose. They
Mhm.
do not thrive. They do not do well in ketones. So you basically are starving your cancer cells, right? So ketogenic diet is one of the things. And so it just helps me really understand, because ketogenic diets are confusing to people. They're not really sure what it means or how you do it. So it just helps me with that. And then just to know that there are several different diets. Now, I'm not a nutritionist and we don't prescribe food plans for people, but we can teach them about options that they have, right? We can do that. That just helps me be stronger, and I think that being a health coach is a very privileged position to be in. And we owe it to our clients to be the very best that we can be. We do, right? I don't fool around with it. I want to be the best. And I know that I have so much to learn. And I'm thankful to Primal Health Coach Institute for giving those opportunities to us, right? It's very
Yeah.
cool.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. So, talking a little bit about the bigger picture here for the remainder of our time together. You have had the opportunity to work very closely in the healthcare system with the doctors that you worked with, brought you to health coaching. Susan says, I found my health coach. She's wonderful. I'm blessed. I love that. Awesome. So, let's talk about how you feel and why and how you feel that health coaches are uniquely positioned to fill the gaps in the healthcare system, to be that bridge between, how the doctor and the patient, or the traditional conventional healthcare system, and then implementation of the recommendations.
I think people who go to medical school, they do that because they want to help people, right? And they're trained a certain way, mostly using pharmaceuticals. And I've heard many doctors say again and again, they don't learn root causes. They don't learn about that. They don't study that. They don't treat root causes. They treat symptoms. And so many of the docs that I've listened to for the last 2 or 3 years talk about their frustration with the system not really helping people get well, but mostly because the statistics are pretty sad when you look at chronic disease and how many more people are sick than they used to be in the richest country in the world and was supposed to be the best medical care in the world, right? So I think that they are actually kind of frustrated with, and so they've kind of gone a different path as medical doctors, and they're going after root causes. Well, typical doctors and medical practices, they don't have time to spend with their patients. I've heard people say they only get 20 minutes. That's the rule. They have 20 minutes with their patients and then they're out of there. So we know stuff that doctors don't know. Of course, I don't know what doctors know, but I do know health coaching stuff. And we have the time to see the people who are struggling with medical issues or whatever's happening to them. So we have the time and we have a different path for them, right? So that's one thing. I think more doctors are calling to bring health coaches into their medical practices. Corporations are calling for health coaches to come in and help keep their people well. So I think we're seeing a real growth and a trend toward, hey, let's get serious about wellness. And we're the people who are trying really hard to deliver that. We need a whole army because millions of people are not well. And younger people are finding even, type 2 diabetes used to be called adult onset diabetes. But now we're seeing that in young kids, type 2 diabetes, right? Yeah. So I think that there's a huge need and it's showing itself. And people are beginning to recognize it more and more. So I expect to see us grow and grow.
Yeah. And you've been able to see, like you said, from 97 until now, when you had only access to the books that you were able to find and read, to the evolution of what information is available now, to the evolution of how health coaching fits in. Do you have any thoughts on the next 5 to 10 years as far as health coaching as a career goes?
Well, I said a while ago, I'm 70. And I just intend to do this is what I'll do for the rest of my life, as long as I can do it. And as long as I follow the 10 primal laws, I should be well and healthy for a long time, right? So
Absolutely.
I might be your 100-year-old coach. I don't know.
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely.
That'd be a hoot. So I just think that, and a lot of people are saying the same thing, that they're looking for health coaches. And
Hmm.
yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. As we wrap this up, is there any kind of final thoughts you'd like to leave, final pieces of advice or wisdom that you'd like to leave us with?
Well, if you are on the fence about becoming a health coach or you're trying to decide between programs, maybe you've looked at other ones or something like that. I'm not really, I wasn't asked to sell the program, but but I would say to people that the coursework is sound, the instructors are great, um, and the Primal Health Coach Institute works very, very hard so that we'll be successful. They promote us, they look out for us, they're working very, very hard. And I believe Primal Health Coach Institute reputation is very, very solid,
Hmm.
very solid reputation. And so the best people are there. If you need help, people are ready to help you and
Hmm.
answer questions. They return calls, they return emails. It's really amazing to see that kind of generosity
Hmm.
in the whole uh, company. Yeah.
It's
So
true. It's like we talk about how much passion and authenticity we have for helping our clients, that's them wanting to help us as health coaches, right? That is primal. That is their dedication and authenticity and passion for helping to move that health coaching industry forward and to support health coaches that are graduates. I couldn't agree more. There's so many incredible resources to support health coaching as a career, for sure. So I dropped the link if anybody is interested in or needs any to talk to anybody, to have anybody answer like in detailed questions about the coaching courses. Again, if you're on the fence about any of it, if you want to learn more about the advanced courses, definitely schedule a call. I have spoken on one of these webinars with Jen, who is an admissions director, and she's just, again, so excited and so genuine and so interested in helping. So yeah, and I'm getting lots of love in the chat. Loved hearing your story. Loved hearing your insights. Where can we follow? And then we have a couple more thoughts on a name. So Stephen said mitochondrial magic reset. Love that. These are all really good. So I know that you don't have a website name yet, but do you have a place for us to find you?
I think the best place is my email, and it's called insulinsmart@gmail.
InsulinSmart@gmail.
Insulinsmart@gmail.com.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Amazing. I like that. Yeah, Insulin Smart. It's really, really great. It's very straightforward. Tells you exactly what to expect, right?
Yeah, that's right. So
Amazing.
mitochondrial reset. Do you mind telling me what their names are? I really want to write
Yeah,
them down.
mitochondrial magic reset.
Oh, magic. Okay, great.
I love it. And then metabolic miracles. And then the subtitle, antidote for cancer and chronic disease. Oh yeah, and then metabolic miracles. These are good.
Nice. Thank you all. Thank you all for sharing those thoughts with me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and what a great idea to crowdsource that one. Well, Anne, it was so wonderful speaking with you today. Thank you for sharing your story. Super inspirational, super actionable, and it was really wonderful to just spend the hour with you.
I really, really enjoyed it. Thank you all so much. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Have a great rest of your day.